And then when I was using my psychic abilities, I stopped having those negative dreams because I was using it in an intentional way and help other people. And so setting that intention, I felt like I was protected, and it was really profound just being able to work with people. And basically, it's like having a movie in my mind, and I can see the past and present and future depending upon the choices that people make.
Sarah combines her gifts as a psychic medium, angel channel, and training as a mental health therapist with a master's in social work to provide holistic, integrated intuitive readings, coaching, and psychic development programs. Sarah guides her clients in upleveling their spiritual connection by teaching her unique intuitive development course and providing professional one-to-one intuitive development training. As an intuitive coach, she uses her intuitive abilities and mental health training to help clients remove blocks to achieving goals, coping with challenging life experiences, and break negative beliefs and behavior patterning. As always, thank you for spending time with us. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and join our community. And thank you so much, Sarah, for being here today. It is such a pleasure to have you. And I would love for you to just dive into your journey. How did you get here today?
Thank you so much for having me. So, I am an intuitive development instructor and intuitive coach. And basically, I feel like the universe just knocked me on the head and my whole life changed. So, before doing this work, I was a mental health therapist and I didn't know I was psychic. And then I just kept having these dreams that were becoming more and more intense and negative, these psychic dreams. And so finally, I found a psychic development teacher, and all of my gifts exploded. I became psychic medium and angel channel, and I could do readings. And then I realized I have this background as a mental health therapist, and I wanted to just weave it all together. And so I just felt like I had no choice but to pursue this path because I felt like I just wasn't quite fitting the role, or I wasn't fitting not the requirements, but as a mental health therapist, it just didn't feel like me. It felt like something was missing.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up because similar to you having a background in mental health, I also felt like I was kind of in a box and I felt like there's more I could do. And I feel like some people I've encountered recently that are in the mental health space have moved out of it to really focus on other things that they can offer. And I love that you tapped into your abilities. And what was that like when you started to discover you had these gifts? What was that like for you?
It was just such a surprise. And it was really wonderful, especially when the angels started to communicate with me. But I'll give you some example of some really cool things that happened. So I started seeing angels as little sparks of light. And I at first didn't know what they were. And then I just had the sense that they were celestial beings that were here to help me. But then I just was like, oh no, I'm not special enough. And so I heard a message when I was sitting outside to look down, and I'd find a heart-shaped rock after looking down. And so I did, and I found a heart-shaped rock. And then I was like, this isn't defined enough. And so the angel said, look down again, and you'll find another heart-shaped rock. And so I did, and it was like a perfectly shaped heart-shaped rock. And then as I learned how to communicate with them another time, I was walking in the woods and I asked for a dragonfly that I could hold. And a dragonfly fell down immediately, and I picked it up and I was able to hold it. So I was getting all these confirmations that I was on the right path and that I was connecting to the angels. And then when I was using my psychic abilities, I stopped having those negative dreams because I was using it in an intentional way and help other people. And so setting that intention, I felt like I was protected, and it was really profound just being able to work with people. And basically, it's like having a movie in my mind, and I can see the past and present and future depending upon the choices that people make. And it was just really exciting. And I would just surprise myself all the time by the things that I saw.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so interesting because I know you mentioned psychic abilities as well as medium, as well as channeling angels. What is the difference? So somebody listening can understand how that really can be slightly different. There's a lot of similarities, but the differences.
So when you're psychic, again, that's when you can see a person's past, present, or future. And then you get information to share them if they have a question, wanting clarity, or really anything about their lives. And so everybody receives psychic information differently. I happen to be clairvoyant, which means, again, I can see. And so that's one aspect. And then the other aspect is being a medium. So being a medium is basically just connecting to deceased loved ones who have passed away. And that's a really, really profound way of helping people heal from grief and loss. And then channeling angels, it's like the angels are, again, these celestial beings that are really here to help us. And so I listen to them as a collective consciousness, and they'll just send me messages, but it's all in my mental voice. And so I had to learn how to kind of discern the difference between my thoughts and these angelic thoughts. But again, I had all these confirmations and signs that I was on the right path. So now it's just very easy. So the angels will basically share messages of healing. Like if I'm feeling upset about something, I'll hear messages or healing or guidance. And then they provide those messages for my clients as well.
I love that. And I'm really curious because you mentioned clients. I know you've worked with so many different people on a wide variety from psychic abilities to also channeling and mediumship. But what are maybe one or two client success stories you can share so people can really understand how it all works?
Well, I'll give you an example of a client who was starting a business, and she was starting a business as a business coach. And she at first, was like barely making any money, and she had a lot of doubt, a lot of fear. And so as we were working together, I taught her how to develop her intuition so that she could communicate with the angels. She took one of my courses. And then we worked on just like releasing fear through trusting. And it's so much easier to do that when you have that clear connection to spirit, which everybody can do. Everybody has that. And so she has built a thriving business, and because of her own gifts, her own intelligence, her spiritual gifts. And then she told me, some days she'll just say, okay, angels, what should I do work on today? And then they'll give her an answer, and then she'll end up getting a few clients that day, a few new clients. So yeah, so that was really wonderful to be able to see the transformation.
Yes.
Another client I have who has taken my courses, but I also worked with her individually as well on developing her intuition. She lost her mother, and she was like, now I can talk to my mom whenever I want. She was coming to me for a reading so I could talk to her mom. And she's like, now I'm talking to her. And she was thinking that maybe she was kind of trying to discover like what a purposeful career would be like for her. And she was considering giving readings to other people. And she was like me, she had no idea that she had these abilities until she started intentionally working on them.
I love that. And it's just tapping into your own abilities because I've heard sometimes people might discover it when they're children. And I feel like these are imaginations too. We're able to see
Yeah.
and there's no barriers. Did you ever experience that as a child? Like, do you remember from then?
I remember being highly empathic, and being an empath is when you can pick up on emotions from other people without them sharing what that is. And so I remember picking up on the emotions of my parents and getting a sense of knowing what they were going through when I was really, really little, when I was a toddler. I even have early memories of before I could really speak and having those awarenesses. But I didn't have any psychic experiences or experience connecting to any sort of spirit or the angels when I was little. So I actually didn't know I was psychic until I was in college.
Yeah. I love that. And, everyone's experience is so different. That's why I'm so curious because it doesn't mean if you didn't experience it as a child, you don't have those abilities. Like you said, everybody has them. It's just if you're willing to tap into that and explore and open that up. And that's exactly what you did. And you're helping so many other people do that. And I'm really curious when you did start your business and grow that, what were some of the hurdles that you've had to overcome, if you had any hurdles?
I had like 10,000 hurdles.
So
And
did I.
all of them, they all stem from my own mind, basically. So I'm the type of gal who didn't like the 9 to 5, but who loved the paycheck. You know what I mean? Knowing what was going to happen next. I wanted to fit into a box. I wanted to fit into a career. I wanted to have a, quote unquote, like normal life. So when I realized that I was going to have to create my own business in order to do what I loved, it was absolutely terrifying. I struggled with anxiety very much. And so it just amped up my anxiety because I felt like I'm on my own. So that was a big hurdle was, also knowing what to do after I put my stake in the grass and said, this is what I'm doing. So basically, it was a constant dance of trusting that I could be successful, that I would get clients, knowing exactly what to do to get clients. And I didn't have any role models. There were no business coaches back then. And I basically said, okay, Angels, I want to do this. Someone said, you have to create a business plan. And I go, all right, Angels, I need a business plan. And then everything, I got it was like one breadcrumb after another that helped me build my business. But the biggest challenge is just, when there's that ebb and flow of income, when you're building a clientele, is trusting. It's about sometimes you doubt whether or not you're good enough. Sometimes you doubt whether or not you're going to make it. When you have that ebb in your month, it can like send you over the edge because you're like, how am I going to pay my bills? So I think the best antidote for me was being able to communicate with the angels and work on manifesting and trusting that they were here to help me.
Yeah.
And I think that if it resonates for you to like build that spiritual foundation of trust and knowing that you're not alone, it can really help you through those times where you're just absolutely freaking out.
Yes, because I think everybody listening can relate to those freak out moments. Like I know we experienced it's like a roller coaster of emotions. You're like,
Yes.
it's a great month, and then the next month is not so great. And you're like, how are we going to do this? But I think
Yes.
that trust piece can be so challenging because what you mentioned, like not feeling good enough sometimes. I know imposter syndrome plays a huge part of my life as well. It's like, well, can I
Mm-hmm.
really do this? Are people really going to listen to me? Is this really going to happen? And all like the thoughts that can flood in, but it's almost like letting go and trusting that you are more than capable of doing it. Sometimes the mind gets
Yes.
our own way. I know that's happened to me and probably a lot of people listening as well. But what helped you really allow yourself to trust the angels and when you were getting like the downloads of, okay, this is the next step, the breadcrumbs from step to step, what allowed you to really trust yourself in doing it as well?
I told myself if I was offered an opportunity, I wouldn't have been offered it if I couldn't do it. So when it came to every opportunity that I was asked to do fell into my lap. And I was like, this is like the angels are guiding me. They're guiding me to these opportunities. And so I said yes to everything, even though that terrified me. And that helped me get to where I am. When I asked for signs like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. Give me a sign that everything's going to be okay. And then I get that sign, for example, and again, like it can be very, very specific, like, the dragonfly falling down and then me being able to pick it up. Every moment that's happened to me has been like, okay, I got this. I got this. And then I start freaking out again. But it's just like I have to go back and remember. And then, just again being able to talk to the angels and then, hearing like, this is what you're meant to be doing. You're not alone. We're helping you. This month might be a bad month, but and then using my intuition to know, oh, okay, this month was slow, but next month is going to be really good to make up for this month. And that's what happens. And so it's just like all of these different factors help me feel more grounded in my business. And it's like, well, I have received messages too that we all have dreams for a reason. And we all have a dream in terms of what we want to do for our future, because that's our way of contributing to the world. And if we want to pursue our dreams, we are going to be supported. That just feels like a law of the universe to me. And so just gaining this knowledge along the way has really, really helped me.
I believe it. And I think what you said to the point of the dreams that we dream, that wouldn't come in if it was just there or not meant for us. Because I think a lot
Right.
of times, I don't know if you've experienced this or maybe anybody listening, where you dream something and then like years later that you never really pursued it, but then somebody else had that dream and did it. And it was something similar, not exactly the same, but similar. It's like, well, oh, I could have done that too. But it's trusting that there's a reason it's coming into the vortex and your energy to kind of
Yes.
see like, oh, well, maybe this is meant for me too in a different way. And because I do believe we're all unique, and I'm sure you can attest to that as well, of what we can contribute. And I want to speak to the intuitive part of you. I know you have a lot of trainings and development trainings around really developing that intuition. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So when I worked with my teacher, she had me do specific exercises, and this is what I now teach with my students. But the biggest barrier to intuition are all these negative beliefs that you have about it. We all are intuitive, but due to many societal factors, such as like valuing rational thought and rational mind over the intuitive mind, historical factors like religion and persecution for people who were exploring their intuition and spiritual gifts, and so many different belief patterns of I don't want to be different that become very personal, and we create these blocks to our intuition. So first it's about removing them. And when I worked with my teacher, she actually had me do these random psychic development exercises that I do. So specific, like she chose a shape, like a cutout shape out of a square, circle, triangle, and I had to intuit what shape it was. And so I was just like, oh my God, I could do this. And then she had me do more psychic development exercises, which I do. But then a lot of it came natural. Like she taught me how to do an exercise to channel angels, and I just, boom, just flew with it and opened up this channel that I think she didn't even realize I could. And so with each aspect of intuitive development, like with mediumship abilities, there are exercises that I did to open it up. And again, it just happened really fast because that's what I was meant to do. So it's just like everybody can learn as long as you really trust that you have this ability, and your trust is going to waver. It's like, what if I'm wrong? Oh my gosh, what if I'm wrong? Well, it's like, well, what if you are wrong? You're doing your best, you're trying. And as human beings, we're wrong sometimes. So it's just getting over those hurdles.
Today's episode is sponsored by the Start Here conference.
Hey there, fabulous folks. Welcome to the Start Here conference, where the fun begins and success stories unfold.
Yep, you heard it right. We're here to kickstart your journey with a big dose of energy and a sprinkle of magic.
Picture this, a place where inspiration flows, connections bloom, and dreams take flight.
At Start Here, we're all about keeping it real and having a blast while doing it.
No stuffy suits or boring speeches here, just good vibes and endless possibilities.
So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes in the water, there's something here for everyone.
From incredible breakout sessions to a dance party that'll have you jumping out your seats and showing us your best moves, this event will have it all.
And hey, did we mention the food? Delicious bites and refreshing drinks to keep you fueled up and ready to conquer the world.
So what are you waiting for? Grab your ticket, bring your sparkle, let's make some magic happen at the Start Here conference.
And now back to the show. Yeah, and I love that you said too, like just with the aspect of opening up the channel for the angels, it happens so quickly for you. And it's almost when things align and when we're on that track. I don't know if you've experienced this as well, doors just start flying open because it's exactly what we're meant to do and on the right track, versus when we are having all these hurdles. Like, of course, there's hurdles in life, and everyone goes through hard stuff, but I think it's a testament when things do start to just flow naturally like a river versus going against the current. That's kind of how I envision it when you're talking about
Yes.
with the angels. It's just like things were moving so quickly, but so naturally as well, versus like forcing something to work when that's not maybe the right thing or right now. Maybe it's a lesson
Right.
you have to learn or anything like that. But, I think just to speak to what you said, I think that's what it really comes down to, is trusting that, okay, this, because a lot of times, I don't know if this is true, but like some people are like, oh, this is too good to be true, or is this even
Right.
real? Did you ever experience that when things started to move quickly for you?
That's a really good question. Once I understood how the universe works in terms of, again, just when you're in alignment, things work for you, I was not as surprised. And I didn't say this is too good to be true because I kind of knew that if I were to trust that this would happen. But in the beginning, when the angels are giving me these incredible signs that were just like once in a lifetime. It felt like I was like, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Is this real? But immediately they kept giving me more and more signs. So I was like, of course this is real. I can't make this stuff up. Like I heard a clicking sound in my ceiling and I look up and there's a white feather, a big white feather that's just floating down from my ceiling. So I was like, this is obviously real. Like I heard a clicking sound. I couldn't just write it off as saying this came from a down comforter or a jacket because it was floating from my ceiling. So it was just kind of being blown away very often. And that helped me develop my trust of like, no, this is really real. I can't deny this.
It's those confirmations because it literally came out of thin air. Like it wasn't
Right.
a comforter, it wasn't from something else. But I think it's those moments where we can really lean into it. And I think because prior to maybe even 5, 10 years ago, there was a lot of stigma around it. And I think more people are opening up to the idea of we all do have these abilities. We all can like lean into this. I mean, I think it's still a little bit on the cusp where people are still like, I don't know what this is, but you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is becoming a little bit more mainstream depending upon, where you live.
True. Maybe not like in the Midwest or something, but like more the
Yeah,
coast here in Denver.
exactly.
A little
Boulder,
more.
Denver, yeah.
It's definitely a shift. And, because of what we've talked about too, with intuition and just really being open and all the obstacles you've overcome, but also a lot of the flow, what advice would you give other entrepreneurs on this journey that might be struggling or need words of wisdom from what you've experienced in your
Mhm.
journey?
Right about whenever you have a good moment in your business, like it felt like there was a synchronicity of like, oh my gosh, something felt like I opened up and I got all these clients. Write about that. Write that down because again, it's a dance between trusting and not trusting that you will most likely experience unless you're like really, really gifted and lucky when you just trust all the time. But it's about really capturing those moments of when things do work out because again, the ebb and flow, it feels like it's part of the natural cycle of building something. I also heard a message that said, don't rush the builder when I was beginning my business. And I was like, oh my God, why don't I have like 10,000 clients? And they were like, yeah, don't rush the builder because remember that when you are ebbing, that's a time for creativity and that's a time for you to build. And if you build a house too quickly, they have major problems and it'll just maybe fall down or something. So you want to give yourself the grace of time. And I would also say develop your intuition. Take one of my courses, work with me, because then you have access to intelligence where it's like you really are not alone because you can connect to spirit and see for yourself, have clarity on how spirit is helping you if you're open to it.
Yes.
So it's this idea that you're not alone. And I think another thing to do is talk to people who are like-minded because there's a lot of fear in the collective, especially with the economy and rent and mortgages and how like I can't afford this, I can't afford that. So talk to people who have an abundance mentality who also might have already gone through what you're going through so you can see them as like this is possible. There are people that are successful doing this and people who are also open to their intuition and connection to the spiritual realm because when you have like people around you that are constantly doubters or haters or like oh you're an artist, oh you're gonna starve, like how do you make it as a musician, or people have asked me you really could make money doing this. So depending upon what your career path is, if it's more on the fringe and you get those types of messages, it's important to surround yourself with like-minded people or successful people who have made it in the business.
Absolutely. I love all of those tips because I think it's a huge testament with the builder aspect. I want to go back to that because I do think a lot of times when we start something, we think, oh, why isn't everyone coming to us? We have answers for them. We can help solve their problem or help them in the direction they want to go. Because I had a similar experience. I thought my business would be up and running in 6 months when I started coaching, and that was not the case. But it's more of that patience, building a foundation, knowing that, trusting the universe, trusting that you're putting in the work. And sometimes when you
Mhm.
build a little slower, you have a solid foundation. If you build, I've heard it from a lot of people that have had success very quickly and then lost it because they built too fast and didn't have that solid foundation for them to
Right.
be able to continue to build those things. And I think it's patience is a virtue, and some months are going to be better than others,
Mm-hmm.
but trusting that you're doing what you can. And, every path is a little bit different in where you want to go. But I think it's continuing to develop your intuition and trusting that things are working out for you, not happening to you, if that makes sense. Like a lot
Yes, exactly.
of say. That's what I think of. Because I do think a lot of times in certain situations, you think, okay, well, why is this happening to me? It's like, why is it happening for me? What's the lesson here? It's easier said than done, of course. There's some lessons
Right,
like, I don't want to learn that again. But
right,
the universe showing us we got to learn that so we can move forward. And that lesson we can take and apply it to other things as well.
exactly.
And with all the advice you've given, all the insights, I'm curious because building a business, it's not just one thing at a time. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things on the back end when it comes to building a business. What are some of the tools that you've used to really help build your business?
Well, one of the things that I've done that's like really goes against the grain of like that grind of like the 9 to 5 and you got to do this and do this and do this is I have learned to incorporate practices for myself so that I can get myself into alignment each day before I do anything. When I'm feeling out of alignment, like if I'm not trusting and I'm planning on making a video that day, I'm like, there's no point in making a video because that's not going to do any good. If I'm feeling out of alignment, I've just noticed, the results of that. Like for those of you who know what I'm talking about because you're doing social media. So that's really important. And then in the back end, it's like choosing what you love to do or what you even like to do because you're not going to like everything. So it's, for example, if you want to market yourself, like for me, podcasts felt like a really nice way to get out, put myself out there, or doing videos on my own Facebook group. And it was just kind of like discovering okay, this actually makes me feel good. And it's about if you're feeling like you're grinding or hustling, choose something different because we don't want it to be a grind. It doesn't need to be a hustle. It's more of like announcing to the world that you're here. So thinking about the ways that makes you feel the best way to announce to the world that you're there. I guess when we're talking about the back end, it's really what's coming up for me is marketing. So these are different ways in which you can get yourself in the zone to market. Chances are, if you are doing a certain type of business like coaching, you're not a genius at marketing.
Guilty.
Or it's not your desire. So you're thinking about how do I want to share my knowledge? How do I want to show the world that I have something to offer? And then plugging into those channels.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. I want to go back to what you said too about like more on the energetic level of marketing, where it's not that hustle, the masculine energy moving into the
Yeah.
energy. That's like what kept coming up for me when you were saying that, because it should be a flow. And yes, there's going to be some times you have to work a little bit harder during that launch or something else, but to consistently do it, like I've been in the masculine a lot. And this year I'm really like moving into my feminine energy because of that shift and knowing, okay, I can't be going like this for the rest of my life because that's
Mm-hmm.
exhausting. But once I did that, more opportunities started to open up in the things I'm focusing on. I don't have to try as hard. I mean, I'm still working hard, but not to like the brink and creating another cycle of burnout for myself. So understanding
Mm-hmm.
that energy level of what feels right for you, showing up as such. And even with the video you mentioned, I think that's so powerful of knowing, okay, this doesn't feel aligned today. That's okay. It doesn't mean like everything's going to go away if you don't do that video today, but
Right.
that energy comes across when you're excited about something versus drained. Like even if you can play it off, but there's sometimes that subconsciously maybe it comes
Oh,
through.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's hard not to, but I think it's just trusting our bodies too and knowing that some days are going to be a little harder, but some days you have to take that rest. You have to take care of yourself and pour into your own cup first and foremost. So that's just what was coming up for me when you were talking about that piece.
Right. And that's not how we roll as a culture in the dominant culture in this United States. It's like you get up, you do your 9 to 5, you feeling bad? Oh well, you know what I mean? Like,
Suck it up.
and yeah, just suck it up and do your thing. And that's not how it works when you're building your own business.
No, because it's the long game. Nobody goes into business to start it for a year and then just be like, okay, I'm done. It's you want that
Right.
thriving longevity of a business. And it
Exactly.
takes some time. It doesn't happen overnight.
Exactly.
And with just everything that you already have accomplished, you've helped so many people, continue to help people. I'm really curious, what are your future aspirations for the next few years? What do you see for yourself, for your business, for your clients?
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm so passionate about teaching that right now I have these really intimate live Zoom courses, and I'm actually creating a self-guided course right now. And maybe by the time this episode is out, it'll be done. I mean, it will be done because I'm working hard
Yes,
on
you're
it.
putting it out there.
I'm putting it out there. But I really want to somehow reach as many people as I can when it comes to teaching intuitive development. And so I also want to do retreats and work with people on developing their intuition live and in person and in a nourishing way where maybe I'm working with other people to co-create a really like healing space. Yeah, I feel like those are my main dreams right now in terms of expansion. It's just ultimately help as many people as I can.
I love it. And I know we were talking prior of just the trainings and the development for the courses that you do have and being able to help so many people really discover their intuition and lean into that and continue to build upon that. But I love the retreat because I think one thing I've noticed from so many people that I've recently connected with, it's just that heart centered of wanting to do more in-person events, retreats, so people can connect
Mhm.
and create community and just it like
Yes.
popped up really big in my head when you said that. I was like, community is bringing like-minded people together where you can continue to grow and evolve because I don't think we ever stay stagnant. I think we're always evolving, even with our gifts and other factors that we have to offer to the world and bringing that in such a beautiful, intimate space. I can't wait to see that happen very soon, hopefully.
Yes, totally, exactly.
Yes. Well, Sarah, I've been so enjoying this conversation, but where can people find you, find your courses? We're going to link everything below, but if you could let us know too.
Yeah, so if you'd like to join or go visit my website at www.sarahitkin.com, there you'll find all the information for my courses. You can also, if you want to work with me and get a reading, there's a coupon for you to get 15% off a reading, and the coupon will be in the links. You can also check in about my packages where I offer ongoing intuitive coaching. I didn't really mention that, using my expertise as a therapist and combining them with all my other abilities to provide help for people who are just going through difficult times and want to get to the other side and feel lightness and joy and a sense of empowerment and purpose. And so I have those offerings as well. And I have a Facebook group called Intuitive Connections where I offer free content. And then you'll see me on Instagram and all that stuff, TikTok. You'll have those in the links.
Yes, I love it. And I love that just to kind of touch on it because I know we didn't throughout the episode, but with the coaching too, just being able to use your background in mental health as well as the intuitive side of you and bridging that because I do think a lot of people have a lot of deep rooted things that might be coming into play and blocking that intuition or allowing them to release it and working through the coaching and getting on the other side. So I think that's so beautiful.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. And I almost forgot to mention that I do work individually with people on developing their intuition as well, all the way up to if they want to become professional psychics or intuitive coaches themselves. I can train people to do that too.
So many options and
So many options.
so many things that you're doing to really help people be grounded in themselves, trust themselves, and really pour into what those next steps might be instead of holding it all in or asking for help from other people, but being able to realize that we have a lot of power within ourselves and just having guides that help us uncover that and move through life.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, Sarah, I've been so enjoying this conversation. I love what you are doing to help so many people uncover their gifts that have been there, but waiting for them to discover in such a beautiful, therapeutic, safe way, because I think it's important what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Of course, make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. What was the biggest takeaway from Sarah today? I'm sure she would love to see that comment, and we'll see you on the next episode.